Hi, it's Parke Madden with Madden Antiques. Today, I'm going to do a walkthrough on what we do for carrying and improving or grooming a Nantucket Lightship basket. The basket I have right here is a nice little example, antique Lightship baskets with a swing handle on it, made by Frederick Chadwick. This one was probably late 19th century, maybe turn of the century. It's actually in pretty good condition, but as you can see, I mean, this is really how it came to me. It's kind of dusty on the inside, a little clean. It's very dry is really the overall thing that comes to it. But I think overall it's got a nice patina. I'm just going to kind of rotate this around a little bit so you can see it. There is a little bit of a missing wrap right here. The handle's in good shape. And I think all the weavers are intact, but this is basically it. It changes color a little bit as you look at it, but so this is it here. And I'm going to go through the process that we do of grooming this and making this ready, helping it, restoring it. Essentially, it's caring for your Nantucket basket. So it's not necessarily, to get a basket ready for sale. It's really just good practice to do with owning and keeping a Nantucket basket. All right, so here's a nice overhead view so you can see what we're working on. I'll do a little bit more of a turn around on this so you can kind of get a little better idea. You know, the iPhone does enhance colors and contrast, so what you're seeing is not exactly what I'm seeing, but you can see there is some nice contrast in here. This is that area right there where the wrap is missing. And to be honest with you, I'm probably not going to do anything about this area there. Some people might, what they would do, because it's not loose. Sometimes this is loose and all unraveling. So I'm just going to leave this as is. But I think it looks pretty good. You can see the dust inside it. And overall, it's in pretty good shape. You can see the ears. These are in good shape here. So one of the first things I use right here is I just kind of go along with this. This here has a little bit of lemon oil on it, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go through this here and just kind of wipe anything else that's in there. This is an area that's really collecting dust. And I give it a blow out there. I don't know if the camera picked that up, but a fair amount of dust just came out. Baskets have a tendency to attract dust simply because of the weave in it. And listen, these things have been around for well over 100 years. So you can imagine the amount of dust that these have seen. And that's looking quite chalky there. So what I like to do is essentially use a little bit of lemon oil. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pour a little bit here into a cap, like this here. And you can find this lemon oil just about anywhere. There's a number of people I know that do work with antiques and furniture restoration. They all agree the lemon oil is a nice material to use. Now what we're going to do, there's kind of two ways we're going to do this. A, we're going to brush that on very carefully, but I also have a rag here that I keep. And not only does the rag good for just wiping off the top of this because it comes down, but the rag is going to be very nice for when we put this onto the handle. And you can even see how much nicely that's coming up. So I'm just going to leave this here for now. But what I'm really going to start working on is just carefully going around, and I just dip this in here, and then I just kind of go around like this, and I just kind of work it in gently. Now the reason I like to use a brush as opposed to the rag on this overall is that the brush is very gentle on it. And if there are any of these little weavers that have begun to come up a little bit or catch something, I don't want it catching on the cloth and pulling it out. Now it looks like it's, you're going to be thinking, wow, this is really going on wet. But remember, this is all going to absorb in. And so not only does this make this look better, but it really helps to preserve the wood. And, wood can really dry out. So depending on, where you live, you know, a lot of times these things are, you know, just put onto shelves or into cabinets or out on, see, they're sitting out a lot. So what I'm doing now here is I'm just kind of working this back and forth right here because I'm trying to just get a little bit into there. Now you don't want to drench it. You know, a little bit of oil goes a long way. But basically what I do is I start in an area here, like that, and I just kind of begin to work my way around. And you can even see, wow, this thing was really dry. It's really absorbing a lot of oil right now. And right now, today I'm starting on the inside. It really doesn't matter if you do the inside or the outside first. So I work my way around on this, and it's just kind of, I'm gently going along here with a brush, and I'm trying to make sure it's all getting covered there and working its way in. And it's nice. So a little bit about the age of this basket. This is a nice one too. This nice shape to it. I found this in a local antique shop, and it's unmarked, but I know it's a Chadwick. Basically, you know, we don't have a lot to go on these things here, but really the clue that we're going to look at on these is in here on the handle, where the handle meets the ears, and in this case it's looks like a piece of copper or brass with a rivet on it, and we compare it to known examples. That's what we do to try and get an idea of who made these. There would have been a label on the bottom right here, but there were paper labels, and paper labels have a tendency to fall off easily. Sometimes I have baskets that just have remnants of labels. Ideally, if there's a fully intact label, you know, that's always going to help the price of a Nantucket basket. They're highly sought after when they have a fully intact label. But on the other hand, you know, when baskets come along and they don't, and if it's a good basket, it's not going to stop me from buying it. I think that they're still nice nonetheless. Some people I've seen with baskets have actually, with labels on them, sorry, have put like a thin piece of plastic over it, but something that doesn't have too much of a hard adhesive. At least the adhesive would be on the outside edges of where you don't want the adhesive touching the label itself. But what that plastic does, it just gives it a little protection because it's always on the bottom. So I'm just kind of going along here. I'm really trying to get it in underneath there. You can already see how beautiful the color that's coming out in this is. Some people might use a little bit larger brush, but I like this one. It just gets it in there. One thing, if it's really dirty, really caked on with a lot of dust and maybe debris or whatever, who knows? You know, a lot of people put dried flowers in these things. You can use a toothbrush. Very, very soft. Obviously, like a used one, and the softer, the better you can get. So next time you're about to change toothbrush and you want to do this, set that nice soft one aside. And what you can do is with it, kind of doing similar to how I'm doing this here, is you kind of go around with it and then with either just water or a very, very mild detergent in there, very mild. So now you can even see a little bit of that oil's come through on the bottom here, if you look. And I am now going to start on the outside, just work my way up here. And look at that nice color coming through right now. Baskets, they just love this lemon oil. It smells nice too. And it's actually nice on your hands as well, on your skin. So I just kind of work this in like this. You know, I'm not going too hard. I'm not actually being very light on this. And I just kind of keep on working this way down like this. Yeah, it's just a very nice way to do it. And in doing this, it is really bringing out that nice patina. And a patina is very, very desirable in Nantucket baskets. It's really going to show its age off. And will really make it, you'll know that it is an antique, and it just takes years to develop. Now, I see baskets in lots of different patinas and conditions over the years. Interesting on this one here, you kind of notice that the staves, the oak staves in here, are actually quite a bit lighter than the rattan weavers that go through here. But the one of the things that people do that has a lot to do with the patina of the basket itself is how they were stored. So for example, if this would have been wrapped in let's say a cloth, like a cotton cloth, and let's say it was kept in a closet for many, many years, we would see a much, much lighter patina on this. And however, on the other hand, if it was used and maybe, it picked up, various, maybe the materials that were kept in it, sometimes, berries were collected in these baskets. You can imagine all the things that would stain it as well. That would be an indicator. You see there is, you see this that's a little loose right there, but I'm not going to worry about it because that's not really impacting this at all. This one is done, doing its time as, carrying things. This is really just going to sit and look great. You can really see on this banding going around the edge, this is going to really help this here. And I just really try and work it all in here. And that's what's great about the brush, is that you can get it into those areas. I mean, you don't want to douse this thing. I mean, in theory, I could see how some people might think, well, why don't you just put it into a vat of oil? But then that would be too much. That would be too much. It would all get inside it, and it would get into places it shouldn't be. I'm really just doing a surface here, just lightly going around it. Now, even though, when it went on, it looked quite wet, after it soaks in, it actually kind of goes to a very kind of a matte color. So, it's not going to look oily when we're done with this. What it's going to do is it's going to really help it. And part of the reason it gets darker is actually because the oil actually helps to draw it doesn't reflect as much light is what happens. That's part of the reason. It's like when anything gets wet, you see how nice that's beginning to look. A couple people I know that do restorations on baskets. When we're looking at baskets, invariably it always comes up first. They say, well, first thing it needs is some lemon oil on there. And so it's a commonly used practice amongst people who restore and work and care for Nantucket baskets, on Nantucket especially. So you see as I'm going along, it's kind of like you're painting it. So it's actually very nice work doing this. It's one of those satisfying jobs that you do that feels good. You're doing something good for the basket. And it's actually, I find it quite relaxing. I'll have people, they'll bring me a small collection of baskets, and we'll just spend some time doing this. And I sometimes call it my basket spa. I like to picture people, these baskets with, with lemons over their eyes, and cucumbers over their eyes, and sitting there. Maybe I should have these in like a little robe or something. But we do this as a service for people when their baskets need some work. So in here, I'm basically just using the brush to get in these corners, but the rest of this, I'm just going to use that rag. So just really get that in there, in these corners there. So now I'm just going to set that aside. And this part here, this rag we've used this for years, this rag. It's picked up all kinds of good patina and stuff. And we just kind of rub this over this like this. Just make sure it gets in there. And then I'll rub that underneath. And maybe just lightly go around very lightly go around the edges. Maybe pick up anything that's extra there. Make sure it's even there. We still need to do the bottom. I'm just carefully going around. I am going to get a little bit in there. By the way, when we're talking about patina on baskets, a trick that my mom always did, she felt that her baskets, she really liked her baskets dark. She would actually place them in a sunny window and leave them there. I mean, rotating them around and leave them in a sunny window. So that's a little tip for you if you find yourself buying a basket that you'd like it to be a little bit darker. So, all right, so here we are. Basically, we're all done here. The only other things I might do a little bit is I might just take just a little bit. Some people might take just a little bit of steel wool on the end there just to kind of bring the brass out on there. I'll decide whether I want to do that or not, but you get a good idea. You can kind of see how nice this looks. So we're now going to let this dry for a little bit, probably, an hour or so, and I'll give it just a nice little, buffing going around, and then we'll get a good idea of how it looks in the final presentation. So I did decide I'm going to at least take a look to see, because I kept looking at this little brass there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little steel wool just to bring up that color a little bit. You want to get yourself the finest steel wool that you can get. Very, very fine. You kind of bring it together to a little bit of a point because I don't want steel wool filings going everywhere. And we're just going to rub this I don't want to get this too much onto the wood itself. Steel wool doesn't really scratch wood, but you can see, it's just bringing this up a little bit. And when you see, I'm just kind of going across it. I'm not putting much pressure on there, just kind of bringing this up like that. And that's just bringing up a little bit of shine on there, if you can see that. Same thing on the other one over here. I think that's going to help it. And I'm just kind of carefully going across this. I don't want to bring that up too much. By no means by fully polishing this. The reason I don't want to put polish on there is that the polish, it's so hard to keep the polish contained to one spot. And invariably some of it's going to spill over onto the wood. And I really don't want that. So this is just adding a nice little detail to it. Obviously I can't get into anything in there. I might just kind of try rubbing this a little bit over the inside here just to kind of bring that up a little bit. Now again, this is not necessary by any means. This is just something to kind of enhance the appearance of it. That there's nothing wrong with that brass being the way it is. In fact, the fact I got a little bit of lemon oil on there is probably going to help it as well. But you do not need to do this step that I'm doing. I'm really just doing this to make it look a little bit nicer so we can see the brass on that ear. Not fully polishing, I'm just kind of bringing it up a little bit. And I might even just kind of hit a little bit on the edge there just so you can see it. This is a very light little treatment. I just think it's a nice way to show off that's brass. Because if I didn't do that, I don't think you'd even really notice that's brass. You can see the old brass in here. There's good brown on there. And I'm just bringing this up just a little bit, just so you can see it. This is very much a choice that I'm making on this basket. It's going to tarnish again, so it's nothing that isn't reversible over time. I just think that little bit on there is nice to be able to see. I think I already got that one. Already got that one. And I just kind of blow off any little pieces that I see. be virtually impossible for me to get in there. I'm not even going to try and do that. But I think I like it just as it is. That's just a very subtle little hint. Might be able to get this one a little bit more coming through. And that's really about it. See, it's just a little, tiny little piece there. All right, great. So now we're just going to let this sit for a little bit and then just give it, you can already see the shininess of that wet look has already disappeared quite a bit. And there's still a little bit there on the bottom, a little bit in there. You see it's not as wet looking. So it really does get absorbed in. Anyway, let's give this a little bit, and I'm going to take a couple pictures that I think will show this off a little bit better. I'll add that to the video. Okay, so here we are. I brought it upstairs to my photography studio with a nice gray background to really show it off. And it's dried off for a little bit. I think you can get a good feel for the overall color and how much nicer that looks. And you can see the little, let's see if I can focus in on that. Yeah, right in there. There we go. There you go. You see, it's just very light with the steel wool there. And the overall look. Great. Well, thank you again for watching this video on caring for a Nantucket Lightship basket. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel. We'll try and do some more. Another one I'd like to do would be one for a Nantucket Lightship basket purse or friendship basket, doing the same thing. Those have a little more things going on with them, and we'd be happy to share that with you. Thanks again.